Let's take a look at the paint option. First of all, as I said in the previous video, we have choose to work in the paint workspace mode. With this option we have these two panels available. So I can choose my paint tool, and as you can see, all the paint option and all the brush tips becomes selectable and active. So I can choose my paint color, I can choose my paint brush here, I can choose the diameter, and here I can have a preview of my brush. I can choose an angle, and of course, being round 100%, my angle doesn't change the shape of my paint. So changing the roundness, I can rotate my paintbrush. I can choose the hardness, so the smooth of the borders. I can choose the spacing that allows me to have a spacing between any point of my line, as you will see in a few moments. And here below, I have more options available. But what's the difference between After Effects and any other paint tools like Photoshop or PaintShop Pro or whatever? First of all, you can paint here, and just painting onto our layer, there is no difference between After Effects and the other tools. But as I said before, we are working with a timeline, and our timeline always influence the tools available inside the software. As you can see, now that I have started to painting onto my layer, now I have inside this layer the effects available. Inside the effects I have a paint layer, a paint effects, and inside the paint effects I have two brush. These two brush are the two strokes that I already painted onto my layer. Also, inside any of these stroke, let's zoom a little bit, maybe it's okay. Inside of any stroke I have the stroke option, and here you have all the same functionality that you have here below our brush tips and here inside the paint panel. So for instance, I can change the color of my stroke, I can change the start of my painting. I created my paint, I created my stroke, and as you can see, this was my start point. So I went down like that and I created my scratch onto the image, and this line inside is not editable as with the pen tool, and we will see the difference between this line and the pen tool when we'll study the masks. And as I said before, you can change the color, or you can change any other of the parameters available in these two panels. So the big difference is that I can change my stroke even after I have created. And this is the first difference between Photoshop, for instance, and After Effects. Also, with the stroke selected, I can change my stroke directly painting another one. The stroke selected will be replaced with a new stroke that I'm creating directly here. If I want to add a new stroke, I have just to deselect it, clicking here inside, and now I can create a new stroke. I can delete a stroke just selecting here inside the timeline my stroke and pushing delete on my keyboard. As you can see, any stroke inside my layer, inside my effect panel, has the same option that has the entire layer. So I have a transform option that allows me to move my stroke. I can scale my stroke. I can rotate it exactly as my layer. So any strokes inside my timeline behave like any other layer inside the timeline. The difference is that any strokes belongs to a single layer, but each stroke, as I said before, is a sort of additional layer with its own transformation options.